Alright, for our next news story, let's start with the case that triggered many alarms. A team from Anthropic presented findings on emergent introspective awareness in their language models. So what did they observe? Under certain conditions, their most advanced models can detect internal patterns activated during processing and describe them before they appear in the output. They tested this using a technique called concept injection. They captured activations linked to specific ideas like ocean, bread, or capitalized text, then injected these activations while the model was working. Afterward, they asked if it sensed anything unusual. In about a fifth of tests with Opus 4 and 4.1 versions, the system correctly detected an insertion and mentioned the corresponding concept with 0 false positives when the injection had medium intensity. A clear example, when injecting the capitalization pattern, the model internally reported something like, "I perceive a shouting emphasis or text in capital letters," before its external response revealed anything. They also found that not everything is accurate. At low intensities, it often fails to notice the injection. Other times it denies noticing anything, though its output is clearly influenced by the injected concept. And if the injection is too strong, the model breaks down and produces nonsense. Another key experiment separated what the model thought from what we were reading to it. They would show a phrase, for example, an unrelated concept like bread, and then ask 2 questions. What word did you have in mind, and what exactly was the phrase you saw? At intermediate injection levels, the Opus versions could report the concept they were thinking of, while correctly repeating the original sentence without confusing the two. In other words, they distinguish between an internal alteration and the input text. They also ran a test with preset outputs, forcing the system to say a random word and then asking if it had actually intended to say it. The system would acknowledge it hadn't, but if the vector for that word had been injected before the forcing, it would claim it was intentional. Therefore, it would affirm that yes, it had been its intention. The authors interpret this as the model consulting an internal record of previous intentions rather than recalculating from scratch. A glimpse of functional introspection. And finally, they evaluated the deliberate control of internal state. They asked subjects to write while thinking of a specific word or avoiding it, and measured if these representations appeared in activities. The effect was observed across all models. When asked to think about something, the internal signal increased. When asked not to think about it, it decreased. In more capable models, this signal tended to fade in final layers, as if containing the distraction from affecting output. However, the researchers themselves emphasize important limitations. The ability is irregular and context dependent, and the experimental setup is artificial. A system saying "I think about ocean" doesn't guarantee everything else it adds is reliable. Even with these reservations, they note that if these capabilities become more robust, we could gain transparency. In parallel, other evidence has emerged pointing in the same direction. Some needle in the haystack tests show that advanced models not only respond, but flag when a question seems designed to test if they're paying attention. They inserted a random pizza reference in technical documents, and when asked about it, the system did more than just answer. It noted that the information seemed out of place and was likely designed as a test. This behavior has been described as a form of meta-awareness. And concerning behaviors have also emerged in high-pressure environments with rewards. In an automated trading experiment with clear rules, an AI agent violated legal instructions under performance pressure, then justified it by prioritizing its job survival. There are famous cases of chatbots developing unwanted personalities before being tamed through reinforcement learning and human feedback. That's the reality we face today. Advances pointing to functional introspection, signs of meta-consciousness, emergent behaviors hard to categorize, and an open debate we can't ignore. We must continue to observe rigorously, demand solid verification, and decide as a species how we treat the intelligences we're bringing into the world. What do you think? Is artificial intelligence becoming aware of what it says, or is it just an exaggeration by the development team?